In this episode, we talk about packaged drinking water being added to the high-risk food category by FSSAI. We also talk about US President Donald Trump saying that US will take over the Gaza Strip. But first we talk about 17 mysterious deaths in Jammu. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Since December, 17 people have died in Jammu's Baddal village. After facing symptoms that resembled that of food poisoning, these people were taken to the hospital where they passed away. The unknown cause behind these deaths have stumped the medical professionals. Following this incident, 370 residents of the village were quarantined. To understand what happened in the Baddal village, what do the medical professionals have to say, and what the current situation is, we have the Indian Express's Arun Sharma joining us. Arun, can you tell us about the situation in the Baddal village of Jammu where 17 people died since December?
Yes, people started falling ill due to some unknown reason. Actually, no one could diagnose initially that what is the problem with them, why they are having fever, or they are having uneasiness in breathing, or they are suddenly falling unconscious. What are the reasons? No one could understand. And 2-3 people died in the beginning. The first death, I believe, took place on December 7. Initially, everybody thought it may be a case of food poisoning. But when more and more people started reaching the hospital with the similar symptoms, and a number of deaths took place later also, then administration rushed the medical teams there to find out what is the problem. The deaths followed a wedding in the village, basically. It was December 2, a daughter of Fazal Hussain, and Fazal Hussain and his 2 or 3 children were the first to be the victim of this unknown disease. They died at the hospital.
Right. And how was this issue dealt with by the administration?
Basically, what happened that when 13, 14 people died, there were reports that a medical lab reported presence of some neurotoxin in the samples collected by them, in food samples collected by them. Even samples of neurotoxin, they were found in the bodies of the deceased as well. Then administration started checking the food. They sealed a natural spring also. After some traces of insecticides or pesticides were found in its water, they started giving them fresh food on their own, advising villagers not to consume ration already stored by them. But even thereafter, as more and more people started complaining of similar symptoms and started approaching the Government Medical College Hospital at Rajouri, the administration rushed. Revenue teams also, police personnel were deployed. They declared parts of the villages affected by these symptoms as containment zones. The people, they were shifted. The close contacts of the deceased are the people who had developed symptoms of this unknown illness. They were shifted to Rajouri and lodged in an isolation center there.
Right. And Arun, can you tell us about the symptoms that were shown by the patients?
All of a sudden, they used to have fever, mild fever, and started complaining of uneasiness in breathing. Some of them used to fall unconscious all of a sudden. Lot of sweating used to take place. These were the common symptoms.
Right. And Arun, what have the medical professionals said about this entire situation? Have they given any kind of a conclusion regarding what could be the cause behind this?
Actually, so far as they are not saying anything, they have not arrived to any definite conclusion. But doctors who are treating these patients, they say that organophosphate may be the cause of deaths because the patients whom they gave atropine injection, an injection which is used to treat organophosphate toxins, the patients got cured. Their finding is only based on that. But still, they say that definite result is yet to come. They are not too sure about the cause of death.
Right. And from what we understand, the samples of these patients are being taken for further testing in multiple institutions across the country. So can you tell us about that and have any conclusions been drawn yet?
Yes, actually, they have been sent nearly 200 samples, food samples, water samples, even samples maybe taken during the postmortem of the deceased have been sent to different labs across the country. Teams of experts who collected the samples, they had come from Chandigarh, they had come from Pune, Delhi. Even recently, doctors from AIMS Delhi had come and visited the village. They too collected the samples. And they even approached the premier medical institutes across the country, like PGIMR in Chandigarh, NCDC in Delhi, or Institute of Virology in Pune. The experts came there, they visited the village, but they too did not give any reason about the cause of death. They took the samples and the investigations are still going on. One of the lab in Lucknow, it reported presence of neurotoxin in the body of the deceased. And this finding was conveyed to government of Jammu and Kashmir by January 13 or 14. This was disclosed by Chief Secretary at one of the meetings, and he asked the health experts and the police also to coordinate and find out that which kind of toxin it is and who it reached the people. This is from where the doctors changed their mode of treatment and started giving atropine injections to the patients. Atropine is an injection which is used to treat toxins caused by organophosphate. Organophosphate is used as a pesticide or insecticide by the villagers.
Right. And Arun, can you tell us what is the current situation in the village, especially as far as the rest of the residents of the village are concerned?
The health experts are yet to arrive at a definite conclusion about the cause of deaths, about the cause of this unknown disease which had hit the people. So the close contacts and relatives of the deceased and those who had fallen ill and hospitalized, they continue to remain in isolated at Government Medical College Hospital in Rajouri or other isolation centers set up by the administration in Rajouri town. Entire village was not affected. The village is spread over to 2 panchayats. 2 or 3 wards of 1 panchayat were affected by it. So the people who continue to stay in the village, the ration stored by them has been sealed by the government administration. They have been provided with fresh ration. They are asked to use the ration provided by the administration and not to use the one stored by them. They are being supplied with fresh water daily, and the ration which stands sealed, its samples have been taken by the administration for testing. But a sense of anxiety is still there in the village because no one knows the reasons about the death.
And next we talk about packaged drinking water. According to a notification from the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI, packaged drinking water was placed under the high-risk food category. This was done to ensure that its manufacturers undergo inspection at least once a year, and only then will they be granted a license. When this notification was released, we had spoken to the Indian Express's Anonna Dutt about high-risk foods and what it means to add packaged drinking water to this category. Today we are airing that conversation again. Anonna, can you begin by explaining to us what are high-risk foods?
So high-risk foods are anything which have more chances of contamination. So this would be, for example, raw fish, meat, eggs, or sweets, etc., which are sold in the open, or cooked foods. These are considered to be high-risk foods under the Food Safety Act in India.
Right. So why has packaged drinking water been named as a high-risk food?
So the whole, notification of packaged drinking water as a high-risk food is just a mere technicality. So essentially, any food that is characterized as high risk needs to undergo, so the manufacturers and people who process these foods, they have to undergo mandatory inspections once a year. And before this notification that came, I think on November 27th, earlier what used to happen for these high risk foods, they would also need BIS certification, which is Bureau of Indian Standards. So the food would need, of course, a license from the food safety regulator, but also from BIS. And to reduce the kind of amount of paperwork and inspections that these products need to go through to get licenses, the Food Safety Authority decided that, okay, we will do away with the requirement for the BIS certification, but we will continue to have our own licenses. Now, this move was just a technicality to ensure that water becomes a product which is regularly monitored by the authority. So, this change in categorization of water would mean that people who are bottling these packaged drinking water, their plants would be inspected once a year at least.
Right. And Anonna, what are the factors that make a food item safe or unsafe for that matter for consumption?
It would, of course, depend on whether a food product has, say, pathogens in it, how they have been stored, how it has been cooked, how it has been transported. Things like this determine whether a person can have. So, for example, if, proper protocol to keep the food at a certain temperature while transporting it is not followed, then there is a risk of, bacterial growth on the food, which can cause then various gastrointestinal infections. So basically, for everything from, procuring the raw materials to cooking or preparing of the foods, how it is packaged, how it is handled, even after packaging, all of this influences the safety of the food.
Right. And how is food safety ensured by the food safety regulators and authorities?
So food safety, to ensure that, anything that's available in the market, whether it's packaged or unpackaged food, the Food Safety Authority usually conducts these surveillance drives where they would go to the market, pick up samples of products, get them tested. And if they are found to be unsafe, then of course there are various provisions under the law to take action against the manufacturer or person who's preparing the food. And other than that, what the Food Safety Authority, which is FSSAI at the center, or the state regulators, what they essentially do is they inspect these food manufacturing plants or food business operators at the time of granting licenses. Then, based on the risk profile, like I said, some foods are considered to be high risk. These are the ones that are at high risk of contamination. There, they would do a routine inspection once a year or once in 2 years. Other than that, the food business operators also get inspected when they apply for renewal of licenses. Not all of them, but a percentage of the people who apply for renewal of licenses in any given month get inspected by the state or the central regulator.
Right. And at the given moment, it is packaged drinking water. But can you tell us what are some other foods that have been designated as high-risk foods?
So, like I mentioned, there are these categories of food which are mentioned in the Acts and Rule as high risk. So, this would include anything like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, any of the meat products, and any product made using these products as well. Other than that, you would also have, say, nutritional supplements. So, foods that are specifically made for certain kinds of, diseases or conditions, those would be considered high risk. Indian sweets will be considered high risk, or, fortified rice is considered to be high risk. These are some of the foods that, termed as high risk and are inspected regularly by the authorities.
And Anonna, as packaged drinking water has now become a part of the high risk food category, so should people refrain from consuming it?
There is no problem with drinking packaged drinking water. The high risk categorization is not a reflection on whether the, packaged drinking water is safe or not. That is just a category to ensure that these processors get inspected regularly so people can go ahead and drink any mineral or packaged drinking water that they consume. And, in fact, think that it might be safer now that it's getting inspected regularly.
And in the end, we talk about a press conference conducted by US President Donald Trump along with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. On Tuesday, US President Donald Trump said that the United States will take over the Gaza Strip and deploy the American troops in the region if it's necessary during a joint press briefing with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the White House. During a bilateral meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Trump suggested that a US takeover of the Gaza Strip is a long-term ownership position, which he claims would bring great stability to the entire Middle East region. While talking about the US takeover of the Gaza Strip at the press conference, Trump said, quote, "We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on site." Unquote.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that.
In the same press conference, Benjamin Netanyahu talked about Israel's goals as far as Gaza is concerned and how US will help achieving the said goals.
In Gaza, Israel has 3 goals: destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities, secure the release of all of our hostages, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. I believe, Mr. President, that your willingness to puncture conventional thinking that has failed time and time and time again, your willingness to think outside the box with fresh ideas will help us achieve all these goals. And I've seen you do this many times. You cut to the chase. You see things others refuse to see. You say things others refuse to say. And after the jaws drop, people scratch their heads. And they say, he's right. And this is the kind of thinking that enabled us to bring the Abraham Accords. This is the kind of thinking that will reshape the Middle East and bring peace.
Earlier, during a meeting with Netanyahu in the Oval Office, Trump had said that people will not go back to Gaza because of the destruction in the area. Responding to Trump's suggestion of a US takeover of the Gaza Strip, Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu said that the suggestion is worthwhile to pursue.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.